Well, hello and welcome to another Agent is In. This is episode 55. Today, I've got a special guest on, Alexei Tololikin. He's a longtime CFEngine user back from CFEngine 2 days. He has developed a lot of CFEngine training material and trained many CF engineers on policy writing. Fun fact, it's his fault that I'm using CFEngine. I think it was maybe 2010. I was using a different piece of software. It's kind of a derivative or grandchild of CFEngine, and I thought it was great. I really like the desired state declaration and things like that. I did not love the dependency stack that came with the other software, and I went to Lisa. And at Lisa, I was having a chat with Alexei about it, and I was like, oh, look at all this cool stuff, and this is great. And he was listening to me and, started asking me some questions. And, he asked me specifically, like, what is it that you care about in your configuration management tool? And it was sad because I knew the moment that he said it, that the software that I was using didn't exactly align with all of the things that I wanted. The software I was using was kind of slower, and cross-platform compatibility was not as great. And I really wanted something that was kind of lean and mean. I thought that, something that is lean and fast can definitely be worked on to improve functionality and things like that. But something that is a bit slower at the beginning, well, that's a different beast to tackle, to try to make something like that a lot faster. So thank you, Alexei, for making me think again about CFEngine and kind of changing the trajectory there. I very much appreciate it.
Yes, I remember this vividly. And I remember when you told me what you were looking for, I was in my mind rubbing my hands vigorously. I was like, this will fit the bill perfectly.
Well, it got me.
C binary, so fast, and cross-platform. This is like exactly. Wait till I tell them about CFEngine.
I know, one package install. There's just so much about it that's just lightweight and just a great tool to have in your belt. I changed my schedule after we had that conversation. I went to Mark's CFEngine 3 training, and I just really was really excited, I guess, about a lot of the other things that are still not top-line things in CFEngine. A lot of the knowledge management characteristics of it were things that really grabbed my attention. But
yes.
Today, oh, go ahead.
I just want to give a shout out to Mark, because that knowledge management work, Mark is continuing it with his SS semantic space-time.
Absolutely, yeah. SS story time.
Yes.
If you haven't checked it out, check it out. He just did the beta 1 release this week or last week. Brand new. He's gotten some help from Yarly, another CF engineer. Was helping him with a couple of things. Anyway, it's a whole lot easier now to kind of try out. If you're ready to try it out, run it on your own plain text notes, or start writing his N for L graph notes. You can just bring up a container pretty quickly, and then boom, have your web UI and start searching the relationships. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's really early days in that project as well. But yes, if you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. He's
fantastic. Thank you, Nick. Yes.
Today, though, I did kind of going back to your training history. I've done a lot of training of CF engineers myself, and obviously written a lot of policy over the years. And one of the things that I hear about CFEngine, people say that it's hard to learn. There's kind of this initial, what feels like a vertical learning curve, and it's been a long time now since I learned CFEngine, but I do recall when I was learning it that it was a little bit difficult, and the order of the evaluation, the way that it did it in the normal order, I didn't find it particularly hard once I knew that it had an order and that's what it was going to do. But it certainly wasn't familiar. And I think that lack of familiarity for people kind of relates to this idea that something is hard, right? Something's hard or easy. Kind of takes me back to there's a I think it was Rich Ritchie gave a Strange Loop talk, maybe in 2013. It was like complex versus complexity, complex versus simple. And at least in that talk, as I recall, the takeaway, it's kind of something is easy if it's familiar, and something is hard if or complex, or if it's less familiar. And kind of the difference between complexity and complicated, and whether or not things can be detangled from each other. But this evaluation order is something that I think a lot of people have expressed a little bit of difficulty with. And on our last episode, we did the 327 sneak peek, so we kind of covered a whole range of new features that are in the next LTS that's going to be being released soon. But we did spend a little bit of time looking at this new evaluation order option. So at the time of our last episode, there's the ability to change that evaluation order kind of globally for the agent. But that affects the entire policy set. And in talking to some users, there's a bit of hesitation about kind of, well, can I safely turn that on? Is that really going to dramatically affect the way that my policy behaves? In our testing, surprisingly, it does not really change anything, which I think, maybe speaks to, kind of the convergence model and the multiple passes and how you can deal with those things. Also, I think that a significant portion of policy is written in the normal order. So if you all of a sudden change everything to execute in the written order as opposed to the normal order, well, if it's written in the normal order, that's the order to still execute it. So, no change in a lot of policies that are written that way. But the new thing that I'm finally going to get to is that now we have the ability to do evaluation order in a specific file. So let's just recap again and take a look at my little test policy here. So bundle agent main, that's going to be the default entry. And then we see that it's just going to call this reports normal. So written in, not written in the normal order, but it's going to execute in the normal order. So what we should expect to see as output from this execution actually is that, commands come before reports. So we should see the promise that executes echo hi first, then we should see hello world, and then we should finally see bye. So if we just run this, that's exactly what we see. We get the notice of the execution from echo hi, we get the hello world report, and then we get the other report bye. Now, yeah, let's do this, right? So I can do same exact policy, right? Just a different bundle name. And we have this body file control specifying evaluation order as top down. So body file control applies to the entire file, to the end of it, unless there's another body file control statement in the file, and then it'll kind of, reset the control options, very much like classes do. And you use body file control for namespaces as well. So if I just run this here directly, CFEngine kfa.cf, I'll specify the bundle name because I can't just take advantage of the main bundle. I didn't put that in there. Reports top down. What we should see is that we'll get this hello world report first, then we'll get the commands report, and finally we'll get that bye. And that's exactly what we get. And so to kind of put these things together, right? That's the interesting part, I think. Yeah, see that. So we'll come in here and we will make that a.cf file part of this policy set by using body file control inputs. Now, inputs and body file control, as a reminder, is going to load relative to the inputs directory that's set. So since I'm over here in these example files that aren't part of a big cohesive policy set or in inputs or deployed, I'm going to specify the full path. Typically, it's you use body file control relatively. So we'll do root a.cf, terminate that. That looks good. Oh. So now when we run, oh, one more thing I need to do in there, t.cf. So reports normal, and then we'll run that reports top down, which is in a.cf that we saw before. So what we should get is, as we got the first time, we'll run this. So it'll run reports normal first, using normal order, meaning we'll get commands, reports, reports, and then it'll run reports top down, which is in top down evaluation order, and we should get it actually in that order that we see it. And that's exactly what we got. So we got the command, the two reports, then we got the other bundle where it admitted that the first report before the command and then after. So, Alexei, I know it's been a little bit of time maybe since you've been working directly with the evaluation order and stuff like that, but I'm curious what your thoughts about this are. I mean, I know that the normal order is based off of Mark's research that he did, right? With the normal order of operations, you're going to typically need a configuration file before your software is going to work. Files come before packages in the normal order. And I think that's one of the most common places where I see people having to kind of fight against the normal order because maybe the package manager will clobber their configuration file. So if they promise a config file and it happens before the software is actually installed, then the software gets installed and it'll clobber the config file, then the service will start with the wrong configuration for the next 5 minutes or whatever it is until it gets fixed and then restart it again. But for that unnecessary churn. But so that's something I think that people have to commonly override. But what are your thoughts about this?
Well, about this specific example that you gave, keep in mind that the package itself is a file, right? So
maybe
it could be. Maybe you're downloading it from, excuse me, your repository, but maybe it came as a file, right? And then you're installing.
I mean, everything's a file, right?
Yes. In Unix, everything is a file. Fair enough. So when you first told me that this change was coming, I was astonished because I know that the normal ordering is very intentional. Like a lot of thought went into it, right? And it's not configurable, again, on purpose, right? But as you were doing this example, I remembered that when I was working in a large CFEngine code base, it was useful operationally to be able to do like a debug print type report to identify which bundle we're in right now, right? And normally reports come last. And the reason reports come last is so that you're reporting on the state of the system, right? You don't want to report to the state and then change it because then your report is immediately stale. So that's why in your example, the reports come after commands. But it's actually nice to be able to get a report at the beginning to declare the bundle and the file. So I do see that this could be useful.
was gonna go ahead and stick in some of these identifiers that you were talking about, some variables, just so that we can kind of track that a little bit more.
Exactly, special variable. And there's this context that reports the bundle name and the file name.
There we go. So now we know the bundle that we're in from the reports normal in that file, so we can see the order. Yeah, and so I've actually seen policy sets where the standard in the policy set is to have something like this, where this is the way they do it each time, and then they'll do something like, you know, handle maybe this dot bundle, and then first, something like that, right? And then basically waste a whole pass of evaluation just to have that more linear logging, which, you know, makes a ton of sense. It makes it easier to do the logging, but yeah, you do lose that third pass of evaluation just to force the reports to come out first. I was also thinking that you know, there are definitely people who, you know, get into CFEngine and want to become an expert, and then there's other people who are using CFEngine maybe a little bit more casually. You know, maybe a junior person who is approaching a large existing code base, got maintenance dropped on them for whatever reason. Maybe that's not their primary responsibility, just trying to help out. So, and those are another one of the cases where, when that's the type of user that I'm working with, often it'll be, you know, okay, well, this, you know, the issue you're facing here looks like some order of operations. You know, we need to use some classes or depends on, or break things up into different bundles to kind of get the more strict ordering you need for that very specific case. So it could be useful for new people. Do you have any other?
Yeah, I was just remembering how when we would install packages, like that would come early on in the configuration of a system, right? And it's been a little while since I've actually done the hands-on CFEngine work, but I seem to recall that we had a bundle called install packages, and I think that's why I've never run into this issue.
Yeah,
with,
there's
trying to,
yeah, that's a good point to bring that up, because there are different patterns that you follow, you know, when doing systems. So in really small environments, almost always it's service oriented, right? Like there's a policy for each service and it's very specific. But when you start getting up into very large fleet management, you know, like Two Sigma was on a few episodes back, and they were talking about how their data-driven policy is done. And for environments like that, with significantly larger scale, I think that it's more common to see kind of a more resource-based approach, right? Where you're doing a whole bunch of stuff about packages, and then you're doing a whole bunch of stuff about configuration files, and then you're probably going to run some commands based off of whatever did or didn't happen and what classes may be left to define later. That is definitely a difference that we see in kind of sizes of infrastructure, and then kind of as they grow as well. Good point.
Absolutely. Another thought I have about this is you're removing some complexity, right? The requirement to know about normal ordering, but now the user has to know about this feature, because it's not on by default, right? Because that would break a lot of things if you just turned it on. So you're kind of shifting the complexity, but I think the new complexity is there's less parts to it. than having to know the normal ordering list.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen, it's super common to build it into your like a template for auto completion and stuff like that. Jeff Carlson, right? He has the YA snippets package that covers all the CFEngine syntax basically for auto expansion. And so when you auto complete a bundle, right, it has all the promise types listed in the normal order, which helps you keep that mental model. And I do think it's nice that this could potentially, reduce that cognitive burden. I think more than that, I'm really interested to hear people's experience using it. It's kind of one of those theory meets the real world differences of like how much something does or doesn't matter in the end. Because as I said, when we change this evaluation order and run it through the policy, almost nothing ultimately changes in the end. It's still kind of, in our case, there are certainly cases where that won't be true. But in our case, like, it was pretty straightforward. So I think it'll be really interesting to hear from people how much it does or doesn't change the way they write policy, if they find it easier, and also what does it do to your performance characteristics and evaluation speed and things like that. Like, is there anything that was maybe inherently more performant about batching all those similar type operations together and things like that, I guess.
Yeah, and speaking of performance, for those running CFEngine across a large fleet or large fleets, that small performance gain, that fraction of a second multiplied by how many thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of hosts, it really adds up.
It really does. Yeah.
And another point is CFEngine is an extraordinarily powerful and flexible tool. And that is kind of a strength. And also that flexibility comes with the added burden on the operator, the policy writer. You have to know the different features. You have to know what's available and what they do, how they interact, etc. Right? But it's unparalleled in its power and flexibility. And you all just made this tool more flexible. So kudos to you.
Thanks. Yeah, we've really
builds on its strength.
We've been really working to make it even more flexible. I mean, custom promise types, have been around. We're looking at maybe custom functions as well. All these ways to kind of extend the language to do the things that you're wanting to do and keep it really lean and fast. And I mean, to your point about performance, I mean, there's nothing better than another ad hoc look at something new. File CFEngine. I just want to call your attention to another new option. We'll probably cover it more specifically in a future episode, but let's see here. There is this new profile option that is coming in 327 as well. So if you've been using CFEngine for a long time, you've probably used CFE Profiler that Loic Peppercorn wrote, or CF Profile that Jan Henrik and Matt Richards and Zhang wrote. But we've brought this functionality more closely into the agent. The CFE Profiler was a C program, and so it needed some specific hooks into the software, which made that less accessible for people to use. The contribution. CF Profile, written in Perl, needed the output to come in real time from the host that you're profiling. And so that complicated a little bit, investigating the performance, because you had to be experiencing the performance problem while you're investigating it. So this other new thing that's coming is the profile option. We can take a look at that just real quickly. So I'll run this with -- profile, and then you'll see that you get this huge JSON output, and it's very detailed about, you know, what promise you're at, where that promise is, how much time it took, and then we've got some other tooling to kind of take this data and then just make it more digestible, right? Like, you know, the top bundles, the top promises, you know, all those sorts of things. Which functions are taking the longest to execute? Which functions do you call the most? All those sorts of fun things, flame graphs. So anyway, still in the pursuit of making that agent super fast.
Phenomenal. Take a fast thing and make it faster.
Anything else that you would like to say or share with people? I really appreciate you joining me on such short notice for this recorded holiday special. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Nick and Cody. I look forward to seeing how it goes with this, what people say, you know, when they try it.
Great. Yeah. Me too. So yeah, please try it. Please send feedback. Yeah, we're excited to know what you think about this. And I guess with that, we can call it a wrap. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for episode 56.